Good morning, everyone. I trust that our weekend is starting on a very wonderful note. I think on Thursday, just before we left, there are some questions from some people. Was it Usman or Emmanuel? One of you asked question regarding document control, and the I think there were questions also from Emmanuel, but I think Emmanuel is not yet on this call. So I'll probably delay the question answering the questions to that time when,
I'm on the call. Oh.
yeah, I know Emmanuel. I'm just saying for the benefit of other people, I'll delay answering your question and Bami's question to that time when we have more people on the call, maybe before we go on our break. just to ensure that other people can just to ensure that other people can benefit from that as well. Um, that said, we'll start with what our focus is supposed to be today, and we'll see how far we can go. But for the next 2 weeks, we may be in a bit of a rush to complete all of the content. So I think it will then have to be a cooperation between yourself and us, just to ensure that you also do self-study and self-reading to help us cover everything that we plan. And if we have time on our hand, those areas that you may want me to go back to, I'll have opportunity to probably take a day and go back to to those area. Okay. So far, just to appreciate how far we have gone, we've completed mitigate threats using Microsoft Defender. We've completed mitigate threats using Microsoft Security Copilot. We've completed mitigate threats using Microsoft Purview. This is where we spoke about the insider risk and also the information protection, DLP, and all of those. We've completed mitigate threats using Defender for endpoint. We have completed mitigate threats using Microsoft Defender for cloud. We have spoken about using KQL, and now we'll be focusing our energy in the next 2 weeks on Microsoft Sentinel. And I'll try as much as possible to complete this first part today, and then maybe on Thursday we'll be able to talk about connecting logs to Microsoft Sentinel. And we'll also spend a bit of time with demo on Thursday. And next week, we'll try to show how detections are created and performed using Microsoft Sentinel. And then hopefully we wrap up with performing threat hunting in Microsoft Sentinel. So we just go to our focus area for today. For today, we have still a huge part to complete. Um, Introduction to Sentinel, create and manage Microsoft Sentinel workspace, and we'll try to create one together on this call. We go to how to query logs in Microsoft Sentinel, how to use a watch list, what are watch lists actually, and then how to use them. Then we speak about utilize threat intelligence in Microsoft Sentinel. and how to integrate Defender and Sentinel together. So let's start with what is Sentinel. I think someone asked question. I can't remember if that was Usman when we were talking about Defender for Cloud. And if I recall well, the question was, what's the difference between Defender for Cloud and what is the difference? I mean, what's the difference between Defender for Cloud and Sentinel? I think I did a bit of explanation in terms of how Microsoft has architected their security solution. You have Defender, which is a suite of application, and you have different components that are focused on different things. You have Defender for identity, for identity related risk and threat management. You have Defender for endpoints, which focuses on servers and systems. You have Defender for cloud, which looks at the security posture in the cloud and then raise issues or alert an incident when there are risk or vulnerabilities or maybe even exposure. You have Defender for Office, which we use to manage security vulnerabilities around email, Teams, and co. You have Defender XDR, which is the fabric that ties everything together. And then you have Microsoft Sentinel, which happen to be the same solution. And SIM stand for Security Information and Event Management. And typically what you use it for, first of all, you use it for log storage. Sometimes you can use it for analytics, and sometimes you can use it for alerting. So Microsoft Sentinel is Microsoft Sentinel is Microsoft offering. I mean, Sentinel is Microsoft's product for security event management. And as you can see the things that it can do, which is to collect logs and allow you to query log. It also allow you to do some form of correlation and anomaly detection using alerting. And also it allow you to create an alert and incident based on your findings. So basically, most SIM solution would have this I mean most SIM solution would have this capability. And a lot of time, I think a lot of people always ask that what is the difference? Because that line can easily be blurred. And if you check currently, I think there are debates in terms of what is a SIM. How is a SIM different from a SOA? A SOA is what they call the security operation automation and response. So it's also uh,
Orchestration.
sorry?
Security orchestration, automation, and
Yeah,
response.
orchestration. Thanks, Usman. Security orchestration, automation, and response. Um, if you look at SOA, it has almost the same functionality as a SIM, but on top of that, you are able to automate response through by you are able to automate your response after you've had a detection, not just sit there. You are able to say that okay, when something like this actually happen, do this. So by just creating a workbook or runbook, depending on the platform, you are able to also decide and also say that okay, anytime you see things like this is the course of action that you should take. And that also takes security to the next level. And aside that, also you also have different other tools. You have the EDR, for instance, which is the endpoint detection and response, which Microsoft Defender for Endpoint fits into. And you have the XDR, which is the fabric. So Microsoft Sentinel also offer those features, and in addition, you can collect logs, which gives you visibility and for storage. And especially when you need to, like I said, it's always not the first day that an attacker gain access into your environment that they wreak the havoc. So if you don't have maybe a log storage, you may not have a data to actually see this history and then the timeline of your attack, of the attack basically. So that log storage is important. It's always important to collect security logs and save. Also, you have capabilities to detect, to look at your log and gain some insight through analytics, alerting, and maybe through hunting using KQL. And also, it can be used to support your investigation in incidents, and as well, you can do some response. So with this response, I mean through automation, um, the Sentinel by itself, I mean for people that are using Microsoft, if you with Sentinel incorporated with Azure Logic app allows organization. Sentinel Sentinel incorporated with Logic app allow organizations to also be able to automate response. For people that understand how Power Apps work, Logic app also work almost the same way as Power Apps for creating a flow, and then for what's it called, for automating an actions and also flows, basically. So in a way, you can view Sentinel as both a SIEM and as a SOA. As both a SIEM and as a SOA. Um, How does Sentinel work? Basically, Sentinel work by collecting data from the different sources that you have using a data connector, using data connectors actually, because it depends on where it's coming from. And there are different data connectors that there are several means you can feed data into a Sentinel. You can use Sentinel as a syslog. You have some CTI protocols. You have some CTI protocols that also allow the exchange of what is it called? You have some CTI protocols that allow the exchange of threat information. So one of those is Taxi. Taxi is a protocol for uh, Taxi is a protocol for what's it called, for sharing threat intelligence between platform and entities. There is another protocol called Sticks, but I don't think Sticks is currently supported in Sentinel. I think according to Microsoft, they have supported Taxi, and you can see what it stands for. Microsoft also Sentinel can also feed data that are activities event from within the Azure into Sentinel. Microsoft Defender services also fits into can also be injected can also be injected into Sentinel, Azure Web Services, and data and security events from AWS and GCP can also be fed into Sentinel. And by default, when you okay, I think I may be jumping out of, but by default, log retention is not forever in Sentinel. So you also need to plan your log retention. And actually, you see that while we started learning KQL last week, we were working with log analytics, and Microsoft Sentinels also rely on log analytics to perform its function. So basically the log retention engine of Sentinel is actually the log analytics. And like I mentioned about maybe run book or one book earlier. So those are the things that you can use to create maybe some sort of visualization that helps you gain insights more into your data and your security events. And your security events. It's also possible. These are just some of the functionalities: analytical, analytics, alert, threat hunting, incident response, and investigation, and also for you to be able to create automation using what's it called? You can create an automation, you can create rules, and if you have access to Logic app, like you currently see on the screenshots, if you also have access to Logic app, you can use Logic app basically in addition to complement your Sentinel, basically to also turn it into a SOA. Um, okay. So basically when to use Sentinel, I'll probably not, I don't know why they've called that heading this way, when to use Sentinel. I'll probably call it why use Sentinel. A lot of time, organization always have to make a decision when organizations always have to make a decision when making, always have to make a decision about which product to buy and also the fit of that product for the organization. So these are just some of the things that you need to know about Sentinel and while it may be preferred. One thing is that it is cloud native SIM. A lot of time when people are buying a SIM solution, if you buy a Sophos solution, for instance, you probably have to install or set up you probably have to install or you probably have to set up what's it called or set up an appliance for you to be able to use that same solution. So basically what Microsoft is saying that for Sentinel it is purely cloud. You really do not have any server to provision, and if you need to scale or maybe your logs are growing and then because of that you need to worry about scaling or adding additional server, that is not that's not a worry in Sentinel. Also you can integrate it with Azure Logic app and it's 100 of connectors. So basically if you need to, Azure Logic app have thousands of connectors actually. And what those means is you have connectors to different systems. Maybe for instance, if you detect that someone is what is it called? You detect that from the log, you notice that your organization is under attack. And being under attack, you notice that you notice that the a threat actor has established a command and control, and you are able to see the IP through Azure Logic app. If the Logic app has a connector to the what's it called? If the Logic app has a connection or maybe a connector to the platform you're using for your maybe firewall or internet proxy, as the case may be, you can also automate a response to say that using the Logic app to say that, oh, I noticed this IP, blah blah blah, and my firewall on my proxy, please can you kill this connection and also prevent subsequent connection to this IP. So basically, you have already implemented, you did a detection, and based on the IP from the IOC, you are also telling or instructing downstream system on what action to do. So basically, through the integration with Azure Logic app and different connectors, you are able to automate certain actions. Well, they say benefit from
So
Microsoft research. Sorry?
please, I have a question. Sorry
Okay.
for stopping this session.
Yeah.
Is there any similarity between Azure Logic App and Power Automate?
The truth is Power Automate share what's it called? Share the underlying infrastructure with Azure Logic app, but they have different pricing model. Right? And for Power Automate, yeah, I think the major difference is in pricing model. And also, if you're doing anything from within Azure service, you may not be able to use Power Automate. For most time, what you are able to easily integrate, seamlessly integrate with Azure services is Azure Logic app. But in terms of functionality, if you've worked with Automate before, if you've worked with Automate before and you try to work with Azure Logic app, then you find it very easy to use. Um, just a moment. Have you used Power Automate before?
I only use it to create playbook. Yeah.
To Playbook, okay. Power Automate.
Yes.
Okay. For how did you integrate it with which solution did you integrate it with?
Sentinel.
Sentinel with Power
Yes.
Automate or with Logic app?
Power Automate.
Okay. So when you use it to create a run book. So what action did you implement? Usman?
Yes.
Yeah, which action did you implement with Power Automate?
I was using it to create a response, but I wasn't able to scale through because of kind of technicalities. At the time, I have to even call Microsoft to guide me through, but I was able to
And they told you
told
it's
not
a
to be slow.
supported integration.
Yes. They said I can use it
And
to
they could not.
create playbooks and automation of response. Yes.
Okay. So basically, I don't know how many people have used Power Automate before, but basically you see that you have all of this. And if you look at the connector or maybe even triggers that you have for Logic app, they are far, far more than what you have for what's it called? What you have in Power Automate. I think if you have time, I might just show you the tiny bit of differences between them. But for most part, in terms of structure, they are almost the same. In terms of flexibility, integration, I think the first major difference is in costing and pricing, the way they are priced. And the next thing is in terms of support.
Sorry, please. Does Logic App also have templates to use? Okay, I think it has. I can see it. Yes.
It does have templates.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, okay, what was I? So key log sources provided for free. For people that are using Microsoft services, and then you have support for hybrid and on-premise environments, meaning that you can integrate your Sentinel with both on-premise environment and cloud, and you can use it as SIM and as well as a data lake. I think that's on the brief about Sentinel. How do you create and manage Sentinel workspace? So for Sentinel, because what you are injecting is data, basically, you are using it first of all to collect data and use it as a log storage. I think first of all, a lot of time organizations, depending on where you are and the data governance you have in place, you may have to worry about the structure of Sentinel and where it is housed. If you are creating a Sentinel, Sentinel is just a resource within your Azure subscription. And your tenant is your tenant, basically, your own space within Microsoft service that is managed and under your control. That is your tenant. And also to separate maybe resources similar, I mean, to categorize and group similar resources together, you may also have a resource group. And within that resource group, you can create your Sentinel. But like I mentioned earlier, Sentinel Sentinel requires log analytics to be in place. It's just as an add-on to log analytics. And if you are working for a single entity, maybe an organization that is based in Nigeria, or maybe a single organization that is operating from just a single country, most time your data governance requirements are always simple. But for organizations, maybe for people who are residents in the, maybe for companies that have that is operating from US and also has another office within the Europe, the data sovereignty may then be a challenge, and you would then have to worry about where do you locate your data. So Microsoft, also realizing this, has many proposition in terms of how you can architect your Sentinel workspace, just to also ensure that you stay compliant with with your data governance or sovereignty requirements, your data storage requirements. So you have option between single tenant with a single Microsoft Sentinel workspace. In this case, you just have a single tenant like I have, and in that tenant, I can go and sign up for Sentinel workspace and keep all of my data there. Also, in you may have a single tenant with regional Microsoft Sentinel workspaces. Sometimes, if you, while you are setting up your resources, and maybe the source where all the logs that you are trying to put in Sentinel are coming from, you've put them in different regions. What that means is, if you, in your setup, you have some servers that are located in US, you have some servers that are located in maybe Russia, and you have some servers that are located in South Africa, for instance. You see that those are far extreme end, one in Europe, one in North America, and one in South Africa, I mean South Africa. So if you now happen to have maybe your log, I mean your log analytic workspace housed in the US, so invariably all the data that are being generated by the servers you have in the US can easily be injected into it can easily be injected. But all the servers that you have located in Russia and South Africa, they have to travel over the network to US to be saved. And in a way, that may also increase your cost in terms of maybe your network utilization, the bandwidth you're using, which Microsoft obviously will cost and also charge you for. So because of that, some people may actually create different um, log analytics workspace in each of those regions where the company has presence, and have substantial resources that they also want to collect log for and manage. So that's another option, to have a single tenant with regional Microsoft Sentinel workspace. So for people that are using regional Microsoft Sentinel workspaces, it's also possible to aggregate those workspaces and manage them using the Microsoft Sentinel Manager, Workspace Manager, I think. Also, so it's, I mean, in terms of the overhead, Microsoft is thinking about that and also has another solution to resolve that challenge in a cost-effective way. So there are pros and cons to everything, obviously. For single tenants, the advantage is the fact of the central pane of glass, the consolidation of all security logs, easier to query all information, back access to control access, and the cons is that it may not meet data governance requirements and also can incur bandwidth costs for cross region. For single tenant with regional Microsoft, I think I did already explain that, where for each region you create a separate Microsoft Sentinel, I mean log analytics workspace with Sentinel, and then each region actually manage their, I mean, is responsible for the injection of the log for those regions. So the pros of those is the fact that there is no cross-region bandwidth cost. You can, I mean, you may quickly be able to meet data governance requirements. You still can implement granular data access control. You can also meet granular retention setting. You can split bills, and you don't have central pane of glass, and you aren't looking in one place for the data. Just so those are the cons to it. And for some organizations that have multiple tenants, or you have different tenants in different region, you can have the Sentinel implemented for those tenants, and you can use Azure Lighthouse to actually manage Sentinel across those tenants. And that's similar to what we discussed earlier about the Azure Hack, which you use it to manage the what's it called, which you use to manage servers regardless of where they are located. So you have the Azure Lighthouse as well, which you can use to manage workspaces across different tenants. So which you can use to manage. Yeah, I think I spoke about that. Then the next thing is, how do you create a Sentinel? To create or sign up for a Sentinel, you can easily search for Sentinel here and click on it, and you create a Sentinel. So when you want to create a Sentinel, the first thing you need to have is a workspace. Because I do not have any log analytic workspace set up, that is the reason why it's asking me to create a new workspace. And I can try Sentinel for 31 days for free. So I'm just going to click on that, and I'm going to just click on CSMG resource group. I've said that resource group is only for grouping and collection of maybe resource related resources together. Basically, that's what they use a resource group for. And I'm just going to call this CSMG workspace, and you can see that I have flexibility of selecting where this is. So if your organization, which of course organization must have some data governance policy in place. If your organization has a policy that says that if you are in Nigeria, for instance, Nigeria always want to look for, I mean, most company in Nigeria will want to look for a location that is neutral and that has maybe some policies that give people comfort. A lot of people always avoid places like US, and the reason why they will avoid US is because the government can just request access to your data in UK. I mean, in UK, in Europe, data governance is data governance is very key, and people respect GDPR. Even governments cannot process your data anyhow in the UK. I mean in the Europe, and also just in terms of neutrality. A lot of people prefer to just use Germany as much as possible, or maybe Europe West. Germany is in Europe West, so a lot of time, if Germany is available, I'm just going to select Germany, and then I can click on create. So create. Okay, so as you can see, I have a log analytics workspace already created for me. So I'm just going to go back to Sentinel. If I try to create Sentinel again, you see that I have a work analytics workspace now available for me to select. So I can select this and then I can click on add.
Please, a quick question. The workplace, did you just create that, or it's
Yes,
been something that you've had for a while?
no, I just created it now. I just created it now.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And you can see it's saying that I have Microsoft Sentinel free trial activated, and I can inject up to 10 GB of data per day for both Sentinel and log analytics. And beyond the 10 GB, I will be billed. um I have configurations, and I have content management, I have threat management, sorry, and then the general. So if I have any logs basically, or if I need to query log, I can use the log session to do that, and you see that this is quickly similar to what you have earlier last week when we were learning about the KQL. For what is it called, incidents, I may have incidents if there's an alert. If I create an alert, or I'm generating alert based on rules within Sentinel as well, alert will always raise an incident which I can find it. I have workbooks which I can use to create some visualization if needed. I can do some hunting here which can be based on a query or some other things. You have the threat intelligence, where you can actually impute things like where you can impute maybe IOCs or maybe some objects, or establish some object relationship, intelligence relationship, and then be able to use that. Um, this is still in preview, and this is just a MITRE attack framework. I think we spoke about this and cover it also in what's it called? We covered it. Okay, I think I promised while we were talking about it in Defender that I'll spend time to speak about this. I think I'll do this last. Hopefully, okay, I won't forget. I will just ensure that I put it somewhere so that I don't forget. If you have priority servers or priority asset list that you want your um team to be able to quickly also call and use without the necessity of what's it called, trying to remember their names and just make their names available within Sentinel for query and inclusion in KQL. You can always add those assets into your watch list. Also for automation, I think this is what myself and Yusma were talking about earlier in terms of creating an automation rules. Basically, you can create an automation rule basically to when an incident happened, what do you want to do, blah blah blah. So basically you can create an automation rule, and you see that when I create a playbook, basically the playbook goes into what's it called, when I create a playbook, the playbook actually by default goes to select resources select an Azure subscription group where I can create the whatever. I can create the, what's it called? I can just put the name of the play group, and then I can click on next and then put the connections that I need, which is by default going to be Sentinel. And with that also, you can go and expand on the playbook by just going into what's it called? By going into the underlying logic app to actually flesh it out. And sorry for that. So you can create you can go into the Azure Logic app and just create whatever actions basically that you need. So Usman, let me ask you, so how did you create from, you said you were able to create some automation using what's it called? Using Power Automate. So how did you do that? Usman?
I was trying to come back to this page because I've minimized it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I
So
was
you
leading.
can see my screen, you can just pointing.
Okay,
I've never seen it done. That's why I'm asking.
okay.
Just
I was leaded from XDR to Power Automate. From XDR portal rather.
okay, from XDR portal. I think it will take you. So, like I said, um, the okay. So it's most like you were most likely using Logic app and not Power Automate by itself. A Power Automate and Logic app have similar architecture, and I think I'm just going to go to Automate, make dots Power Automate.com. So they have similar architecture, but they are very, very different. And for a lot of Microsoft security too, what's it called? The underlying solution that they always support for automation is usually Logic App. I've actually not seen Power Automate directly used, and that is the reason why I'm curious. If it's supported now, maybe that can make sense from cost perspective. That's why I'm also asking. So if there is maybe some new developments I'm not aware of, just to ensure that. So in terms of, I think I said earlier, I'm just going to SCMG. In terms of a trigger, basically you see that a lot of things within Power Automate are related to Microsoft 365 services, and then you have maybe some other. I think I'm not sure I'll be able to change the trigger. Events read. So basically, if you look at the trigger, I think that's where a lot of what's it called is going to be, a lot of issue is going to be. In terms of trigger and then the options that you have in Power Automate, they are quite different and quite diverse. There are some overlaps, I agree, but in terms of resources that you can select, I think they are sort of limited. So if I come to Azure subscription, I think okay, I don't want to create a new. I think I created it this earlier. So in terms of trigger, you see the kind of triggers that you have for what's it called, for Logic App, and all of them are actually, they are not categorized into standard or into advanced, where you then have to pay for advanced like you do for Power Automate. And I think Power Logic App just cover more things and also quite more flexible when it comes to what's it called. But if you figure it out, please let me know anyway. I'll appreciate to also know. Just to update myself on that. Okay. So yeah, that's how to create the Azure Sentinel. That's how to create the Azure Sentinel. Then the other thing would then be injecting log into Azure Sentinel. So how to query logs in Sentinel. I think last week we spoke about how to use KQL. Sentinel uses KQL, and what you just need to be aware of are the tables, basically. Because currently we don't have anything in our, what's it called? Currently, we don't have anything injected into our Sentinel. You can see that the tables are empty. But if we start piping data into Sentinel, then you have this table coming up, basically. And I think for some of us who have been working with XDR over the course, I think even if it is one, you should already have a table, and maybe from XDR. And I think that may just be an assignment to do the connection of bringing the data from XDR into Sentinel. Yeah, so plan for, I think we've covered this. So let's go to shut down. Yeah, so you have some tables. If you are creating alerts or generating alerts using Sentinel analytics rules, then you may have this table created. you have this table, another table that you security incident basically, which are generated when an alert is raised. And you have intelligence, threat intelligence indicator, which contains user created or data connection, a connector injected indicator. So if you, from any of the threat intelligence sources, the CTI sources, if you are injecting maybe threat intelligence into Sentinel, then all of them will go into threat intelligence indicator table. And I did mention that you may use Sentinel also to manage some watch list. If you have priority IP addresses or server names that you also want to be accessible, whose name you want to be accessible to your SOC team, then you can have them in a watch list, and that makes them usable from within Sentinel. So also, if you are injecting data into Sentinel from your Microsoft 365 service, then you need to be aware of some of the other tables that you can have created. And these are some of the tables, and you have the description for what each one of them does. You see, MCSS is for the cloud apps. Office activity talks about the Office 365 tenant activities. You have the security event logs, which are collected from machines, servers, or maybe other systems, basically by Azure Security Center. You have sign-in logs, which details the login activity of individual users. You have syslog events on Linux computers using log analytic agents. So basically, we are going to fetch data from a Linux system, then they must have log analytics agents installed. If they are not in the cloud, if they are coming from the system, I mean, if they are on premise also, you may still need to install log analytics agents on those systems. But if you are looking at maybe a system that is already connected to Defender, if you have your XDR integrated into Sentinel, you may not necessarily have to install log analytics again, because all of those information will be shared by XDR with Sentinel if they are integrated together. Understand XDR table. These are some of the tables within the XDR, and it makes sense to know them because they are going to end up in Sentinel if you have an integration between Sentinel and XDR, like I just mentioned. Okay, I think this is 8:59. I was going to talk about the question asked by Emmanuel, and also the question asked on the general group by Bami. Before I start talking, I think Bami asked question about I'll start from the last one. Have you done SC-200? In terms of doing the exam, no. And I don't plan to do it also because I think I have some other qualification that put me ahead of SC-200 currently. That said, I manage teams who I also currently manage team. I mean, SOC is part of my team currently. So, if in terms of qualification to speak about this, I believe I'm overly qualified to speak about it. And I also have some Microsoft certification that already cover this area of work as well. But in terms of my experience and certification, I think I have some other certification that already cover for this, and if I don't have this, I don't think anybody will request it for me. For an analyst role, yes, it will be required. As an architect, I don't need it. Does the SC-200 certification apply more to SOC analyst or to SOC engineer? In terms of SOC analyst and SOC engineer, I think it's important to actually know what SOC is. So basically, I saw this article and I felt like I'll just share this since it's already provided clarity to some of the questions that you asked. Within SOC team is SOC is a very broad word, right? SOC is a very broad word, and within the SOC team, you still have some different competency area. You have the incident responder, who are the people that that will probably pick up issues and also quickly try to respond to those issues as they come up. You have the security investigator. You have the security investigator. You have advanced security analyst. You have the SOC managers, and then you have the engineering architects. But within the SOC team, you probably always, for people that are familiar with how SOC operates, you probably have something like tier one support, tier 2 support, or maybe tier 3 support within the SOC team. And for the tier 1, they are more of just considering, I mean, picking up alerts and reporting on tasks basically. And when they have issues or when they cite new issues or new threats, they escalate it to the tier 2 support, which are usually the responder. Those are the ones that come to pick the issues and deal with it. Where you have issues that are very complex, that is where you have the threat hunters. The threat hunters are the one that I think there is a progression of things from being able to first of all pick up issues as they come, to having the skills to actually treat and to actually go ahead and hunt for threats. So bringing that back home to SOC 200, what if you look at the structure of the program, you have instances where things are already configured and someone is just monitoring the alerts and responding to issues as they come. You have another instance where I mean an issue has been reported, and then you have to go and hunt for you have to go and hunt those issues. And in some cases also, it is just not in hunting. You have to go ahead as well and actually implement some things or maybe some controls to prevent either to manage what has been, either to remediate maybe a vulnerability that was exploited, or probably in order to control your security, I mean, to improve your what is it called? To improve your security architecture. Like we were doing with all of the policies that I think the policies that we implemented maybe last week for some of them that work on those assignments basically. So within SOC, you have the people wearing different hats, and that will be from being an analyst to actually being a responder to being a threat hunter, and above that to being an engineer. So basically in terms of that, is he as a SOC analyst or as a SOC engineer? SC-200, I mean, sorry, please just give me 1 minute. Basically, we did. within the SOC team, you have different people wearing different hats. And also as a SOC 2, as a Microsoft security operation analyst or engineer, you are wearing the hat for all of them. So you are expected to have competency to be able to not only respond, to not only detect, to be able to respond, to be able to hunt, and that is the reason for all the KQL and the Sentinel. And then for you to be able to implement control, which I think you are already doing. So if that answer your question, Bam.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. I think you asked another question regarding what's it called? I think you asked question regarding maybe practice question for SC-200. I think there is what's the name of that? Okay, there is a
Exam topic.
exam topic, yes. There is a site called Exam Topics. It contains mostly all of the exams. Some of the exams some of the questions you see here, you have to vet them yourself. You don't take them as is, but I think about 60 to 70% of the answers you get here should be correct. But again, caveat, it's not always correct. So you just have to vet it. And you see currently this has an exam bank of 377 questions, and you can see an average score during real exam at this. I think they have a paid version, but for the times I've used this, I've never really had to I've never really had to use any what's it called, to pay. I've never really had to use a paid version for this. So if what you're looking for is something like this, I just put it on the general group WhatsApp chat, so you can have a look at it later. Yeah, you can have a look at it later. I hope it helps. Yep. Okay. So I think regarding the question on document control during the first
Please,
present.
before you go to document control, in
Okay.
addition to question that was just answered, I
Yeah.
think Cisco Cyber Ops Associates
Yeah.
bear the same name with this Microsoft course that we are doing.
Yeah.
Develop different or almost different curriculum. The
Yeah.
Cyber Ops more focus on more network security and its monitoring. I don't know if you have come across that syllabus. So, and it's basically called the same name. So that's why I get confused. So if you can just put a light into this. I know it's not part of the this course, but I think I just check it through, please.
Yeah. So I think during the start of this program, Wally said something about what was it called? The generic certification and then the vendor specific certification, right? So in terms of generic certification, if you are doing maybe taking a course or maybe an exam related to for instance, maybe ISC2 or ISACA exam, or maybe exam like EC Council or CompTIA, those ones are vendor neutral. If you are taking vendor exam like Microsoft or maybe Cisco, if you are taking exam like Microsoft or Cisco, then you know that they'll tailor it towards some of their products, and you see that in SC-200 we've been speaking mostly about Microsoft products. We've been speaking mostly about Microsoft products. What did you call the name of the exam? Sorry, I mean the test. Sorry.
Cisco Cyber Ops Associates.
Cisco Cyber Ops. Okay, I think in terms of, so for this can, so basically for as a cybersecurity operations center engineer, threat engineer, or whatever, I mean whatever the title is within the SOC team, the first thing you need to realize in being effective is actually the tool and then the kind of organization that you work for. If your company is a Microsoft shop, then which is one of the things that we started with. If your company is a Microsoft shop, I think SOC2 is more likely. I mean, what's it called? SC-200 is more likely what you need, right? Because those are the tools that you'll be using on everyday job. If your company is more of on-premise, or maybe you are more of what is it called? If you are more of on-premise, so basically what Microsoft Cyber Up, I think one thing you should be glaring to you is also the fact that I'm actually an instructor for Microsoft Academy. And for Microsoft Academy, I think I instruct on ethical hacking, and just to be clear, not all of their curriculum. So for some of the courses here, they are vendor neutral, and for some others, they are tailored towards Microsoft. I mean, sorry, towards Cisco system. For someone that is interested in network defense, which a SOC analyst is also going to be, basically, your knowledge is not going to be limited to application. You should have knowledge of the network and then the underlying infrastructure as well. For someone that is interested in network, and if you are a Cisco shop, then this would make sense for you. If you look at even the course intro, basically, my Cisco already said that detect and respond to security incidents, intricacies of security concepts, monitoring, host-based analysis, network intrusion analysis, and security policies procedure. So more of this is at the network level in terms of, I mean, what I can see. More of this is at a network level. So while they are not the same thing, Microsoft covers applications. I mean, SC-200 covers application, covers different systems themselves, covers maybe in terms of endpoints, we cover what is it called, malware. You are covering maybe the kind of threats that you see on every day. But what this actually seems to be focusing on is along the network protocol itself, and not really based on assets, not asset focus, like what Microsoft SC-200 really is focusing on. But that said, you also have some capabilities within Microsoft that you can also use as well to, if your interests also expand into network infrastructure. So for instance, the SIM, we said that the SIM can be used as a for log storage and analytics. So at that level also, all of the logs that are generated within maybe Cisco or other network devices can also be forwarded into Sentinel. for analysis and for integration as part of your security fabric. So, but what I would just like to say in wrapping up every other tiny bit of, of response that I've provided, is the fact that always differentiate between when you take a course, differentiate whether be clear on what the expectations are. Is it vendor neutral? Is it vendor specific? Both these and SC-200 are vendor specific, so the costs are going to be different because Microsoft is trying to spotlight how you use their technology to actually meet your security need, and that's what Cisco is also trying to say. And in doing that, basically the course content is going to be different. Then which course is right for me? In knowing which course is right for me, if I'm trying to make entry, I look at what is most common in organizations that I want to work for, and I think I'll probably prioritize learning those technologies and maybe the TTP whatever for the most common tools that will probably give me an edge. But if you happen to work in an organization and maybe your organization rely more on certain technology than others, then it might make sense for you to also want to consider vendor specific courses for the tools that your organization is using. And also, to be honest, these are not just the only two courses on Security Operations Center. If you go to EC Council also has another course for Security Operations Center. And I think in EC Council, they use more of Elastic ELK. Um, sorry, just a moment. Um, let's see. Yeah, certified. Oh no, I want to actually see the course contents and not not taking. Um, so I'm trying to see if I can get the course content just to. Okay. I think just not to waste stock analyst. Yeah, okay. Just what I'm looking for. Okay. If you look at the content and the learning objective for this, you see that for most parts it's using Splunk, Alien Vault, OSSIM, and then the ELK. All right, so these are the tools that you're probably going to learn if you are taking this course. And also, this is also a SOC analyst. So you can see that it can quickly, depending on the what's it called? The course vendor, the topic is going to be different. And you as an individual then should be able to evaluate which one apply most to you. For people who are working in as a maybe it's managed service provider, if they are not using Microsoft Sentinel, they are most likely using things like Splunk and ELK, basically. So I'll probably even prioritize these two over Cisco CyberOps in terms of what to do. But again, that's always your decision. You just need to be able to evaluate and see which one actually meets your what's it called, meet your own individual requirements and your outlook in terms of what your objectives are. I hope that's clear. I think there was I'm not sure what Emmanuel responded to. You said it's a paid course. Are you talking about the EC Council CSA?
No, I was talking about the suburbs.
The suburbs. It can be free actually.
No, it's not. It's not free.
It's not free.
Yes, you pay for the course.
You pay for the course. Okay.
It can be free, but require instructor led.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to what we were working on. Okay. So plan for watch list. I think I did mention earlier that it's possible to create a watch list, and also under what condition we'll need a watch list. So well, I don't want to do any reading. I think I explained that earlier, so let me just go ahead and skip it. If you need to create a watch list, go previous actually, sorry. So just for the purpose of clarity, if you are collecting data and you want to be able to correlate those data maybe with some items within your environment, you can create a watch list. And the common scenario for using watch list include is investigating threat and responding to incident quickly with rapid import of IP addresses, file hashes, or maybe data sources from CSV. So if you have maybe an asset list that you want to make searchable, from your organization, you can use a watch list. If you have maybe a long list of threat IPs, maybe file hashes or other data source also that you want to use or search for within an alert or during threat hunting or workbook as well, you can create a watch list. So to reduce alert fatigue, you can create a watch list. Maybe if you have list of alert being generated for certain assets, and you just know that okay, maybe that alert should not really be bothered when it requires maybe those assets or those IP. You can create a list for those IP and then be able to exclude them to avoid alert fatigue. And you can also use what's it called, watch list, to enrich your events, maybe with a name value combination derived from external sources. So if you need to create a watch list, basically you can go ahead to the watch list session and create a new where is this sent? Okay. Yeah. So here you can go ahead and create a list. You can give it a name. You can give it an alias, and you can, depending on the source type, if it's something you have saved in Azure storage and you want to import from there, you can do that. If it's a local file that you have, you can do that. CSV is the only one currently supported. In terms of what's it called? In terms of the number of lines before the row, if you put maybe a description or something within CSV and you want to skip certain line, you can put 0. If you are not skipping anything, you can put 0, meaning that everything that you have basically within the everything that you have basically within the file should be imported, and you can navigate to the file to import, and when that is done, you can click on review. I mean, you can click on review plus create to create that. And within your KQL, if you want to search or retrieve the data in if you want to retrieve the data in a watch list, basically you can use the get watch list command, and then the name that you have given the data that you set, the name that you have set here, basically you can use that to retrieve the watch list components. And also you can edit a watch list component. If you've already imported a watch list, you can go back to it and edit it as the need arise, if there is a need for you to if there's a need for you to edit, so you can go ahead and do that. Utilizing threat intelligence in Microsoft Sentinel. Like mentioned, it's possible for you to consume threat intelligence within Sentinel. So basically, if you so cyber threat intelligence can come from many sources. Some of them will be open source data feeds, some of them may be paid, some of them just intelligence feed, and some of them may even come from security investigation within your organization, and some of them may even come from reports on the motivation of threat actors, maybe infrastructure and technique, and specifically observed IP addresses, domains, and file hashing botnets and malware, regardless of what format it is. I mean, regardless of how you have obtained the threat intelligence, those threat intelligence that have information about maybe the attacker that actually help you secure your environment more, those are called tactical intelligence. They are called tactical threat intelligence, and that's because security products and automation can use them at scale to protect and detect um threats in an environment. So you can also integrate threat intelligence into Microsoft Sentinel through any of these means. You can use data connector to various TI platform. Different platform have their what's it called, data connector that you can use to feed data from them into Sentinel. You can view and manage the imported threat intelligence in log and new threat intelligence tab. You can view and manage imported threat intelligence in logs. If they are imported into Sentinel, you can view them within logs and new threat intelligence area of Sentinel. You can use the built-in analytic route template to generate alerts and incidents as well, based on the imported log, and you can visualize the what's it called, critical information about the threat intelligence in Microsoft Sentinel within the threat intelligence workbook, and you can perform threat hunting based on that. For Defender and for Defender actually has more like an open source threat intelligence. So if enabled, sorry, if enabled, all of the intelligence that it collects, it can actually share all of those intelligence basically with it can share all of those intelligence collected with Sentinel. It can share all of those intelligence connected with to Sentinel. and those can also be used to improve the security of your environment. So to manage the threats, to manage threat indicators, basically, if there are connection already, like I mentioned, it's going to forward or inject threat information from defender, and also logs and other information from defenders into Sentinel. You can navigate to defender, go to threat intelligence, and from there you can open threat information. And as you can see, Microsoft, I think XDR by default already have threat intelligence coming from different sources, and I think that also simplify the need for integrations if you already have them here, and you can easily just inject them basically into you can inject them into Sentinel. And I think just because I also set up the Sentinel and I've not completed the integration, but once done, also it's also possible for me to actually manage Sentinel right from the defender endpoints here. So if you have threat intelligence, you can use it as part of your KQL. You will recall we said that threat intelligence information is always saved in threat intelligence indicator table. For all the threat intelligence informations that have been pushed into Sentinel are saved into threat intelligence indicator table. So by typing threat intelligence indicator, basically you can see all of the threat intelligence that you have in that you have within your within the Sentinel workspace. Okay. So the last thing is integrating Defender with Sentinel. Sentinel can easily be integrated with Defender, and if you look at XDR in terms of architecture, first of all, like I mentioned, you have a lot of different apps and other Microsoft solutions that are injecting data through the different signals into XDR. All of those information can easily be made available into Sentinel by just integrating the XDR with Sentinel without the need to integrate individual applications directly into Sentinel. You also have the third parties and partners that applications also that you also have connector for and can be integrated into Sentinel. If you have multi-cloud environment like GCP and AWS as well, you can inject data from those sources also into Sentinel. And for Defender for Cloud, if you are using Defender for Cloud can collect information from different resources that you have, and those information can also be injected into Sentinel. So while it is possible, I did mention just a few minutes ago that I did mention some minutes ago that it's possible for you to integrate Defender XDR and Sentinel together, and what that makes possible is that it allows for information sharing between the two platforms, and that also makes it easier for you to also manage some aspect of Sentinel from within the XDR. So here are some of the capabilities between using the different capability difference between the portals. Basically, I think I'll let you go over them. in details. So if you need to onboard Defender to XDR, these are some of the this is the actions that you need to go by. So here you have some prerequisites. You must already have a Sentinel service enabled with log analytics workspace. Yeah, that is very obvious. The data collector for Microsoft XDR must be enabled in Microsoft Sentinel for incidents and alerts. To see that, you can follow this guide to connect, and you have access to Microsoft XDR in Defender for in Defender portal. That's also obvious. Microsoft Defender XDR onboarded to the Microsoft Entra tenant. That's also obvious. An Azure account with appropriate roles to onboard use create. That's also obvious. And these are some of the roles and then the different things that you need to take into action. So basically, to onboard, you can go to Defender for the Defender portal sign in, and then in the XDR home, you can click on select or connect a workspace in the get your SIM. Yeah, sorry. I think I need to get just 1 minute. I need to get water. I'm back. So basically, you can follow the you can follow the instruction to do that. So basically, we can go to XDR home, and then we can select on connect a workspace, or and you get your SIM and XDR in one place. Basically, we just need to choose the workspace you want to connect to and click on next. I mean, read and understand the product changes associated with connecting your workspace. These include log table query function in Microsoft Sentinel workspace are also available in advanced hunting within the Defender. So basically, that singular action make all of the what's it called, log tables, query and functions from Sentinel available for use within the Defender. Microsoft Sentinel contributor role is assigned to the Microsoft Threat Protection and Windows Defender ATP app within the subscription. Active Microsoft Security Incident Creation rule are deactivated to avoid duplicates, because now you can create rules on Microsoft Defender and you can create rules in Sentinel to avoid duplications. The Microsoft Security Incident group creation rules are deactivated to avoid that. And then you have all alerts related to Defender XDR products are streamed directly from the main Defender XDR data to ensure consistency. All alerts are then streamed from single location, which is the XDR. Also, if you also want to onboard, you can also onboard by clicking on settings and going to XDR. Here you see get your SIM and XDR in workplace. I can connect my workspace, and here you see that the only workspace I have is this CSMG basically, which I think I can click on next on. It asks for primary workspace, obviously the same thing. I'm just going to click on next. It then tells you the same information we just read, which is the changes that will happen, just so you are aware of those changes, and I can click on next. It's just a final warning telling me that I'm about to connect a workspace, and just to ensure that it's an action that I want to complete, which I have said yes to. So currently it's trying to connect my workspace. The XDR is trying to connect my workspace, which I think should be completed in fews. Okay, it's already completed, and that's how to just connect XDR and Defender together. If you have more workspaces you want to connect, you can also follow a similar you can also now follow a similar progression. So if I want to remove Sentinel from what's it called? If I want to remove Sentinel from the XDR, I can come and select it and just disconnect the workspace, and that should remove it. I can click on the three eclipse here also and disconnect it as well. So if you have a strategy where you have 3 or 4 Sentinel, maybe for instance you are using a single tenant with multiple region Sentinel workspaces, you can connect all of them under here, and obviously you can see the location that each one of them belong to as well. I think that will probably be all for today. That will probably be all for today. By next week we continue. Sorry, thought I had this open. So next week I said next week on Thursday we look at how to connect logs to Microsoft Sentinel. So currently we have Sentinel configured, we have it integrated into XDR, but we don't have any log currently available in our Sentinel. So on Thursday we look at how to integrate different log sources to it.